Can I keep your scarf? Why? It's not cold in here. Because it smells like you. Tired-looking eyes sparkled under the artificial lighting. It sort of makes me feel like you're still with me. Atsumu smiled in a way that almost broke Sakusa's heart. Keep it then. See you tomorrow. He turned around to leave the hospital room as quickly as possible, or else he'd end up losing his composure. Wouldn't it be totally awesome to jump back in time and learn about your past life by hypnosis? Atsumu said, but to Sakusa it sounded like he was practically yelling, as his voice had jumped about 3 octaves higher due to his excitement. Past life? Reincarnation? I don't believe in stuff like that. You're so boring, Omi. Doesn't it pique your interest in the least bit? Why don't you spend your free time practicing volleyball instead of thinking about that sort of unimportant garbage? Sakusa had routinely slid the loops of his face mask over his ears before he turned towards his teammate and boyfriend. But to make things clear, I don't really give a fuck. Can you hurry up and get changed already? Maybe your past life has something to do with your unreasonable fear of germs. Atsumu mumbled as he started getting lost in all sorts of conspiracy theories about Sakusa's past life. They were now subconsciously triggering his boyfriend's germophobic tendencies. Maybe someone suffocated you with a dirty linen towel, and now you're terrified of dirt because it subconsciously reminds you of the terrible way you've died. The blonde tapped on his chin, unaware that his boyfriend was growing more and more impatient. Or maybe someone drowned you in dirty water. Ah no, I get it now. Someone locked you up somewhere and that place was incredibly dirty, with lots of roaches jumping around. And after weeks of suffering you died of malnutrition. Now every time you see a roach you freak out because it reminds you, if you don't hurry the fuck up and get changed, I'll go home without you. Sakusa's fingertips were more or less gently tapping against the watch he wore on his left wrist, as he attempted to put a little bit of pressure onto his boyfriend. Sakusa really looked forward to taking a shower at home, after sweating a ton during practice, followed by a nice warm dinner and a good dose of sleep. The sound of his fingernails thudding against the wristwatch surface echoed through the room as he watched Atsumu pull a black sweater over his head. But seriously, I think it would be awesome to learn about one's past life. I bet I was someone super famous. I mean, look at me, even you didn't manage to resist this phase. Atsumu growled in total satisfaction with himself and his looks. I bet you were homeless because people were fed up with your stupid arrogance. Sakusa paused, and even though his face was mostly covered by the white fabric of his mask, he was visibly disgusted and irritated. I bet you were homeless and shared your food with the roaches, or maybe... Sakusa shuddered as he continued. Maybe the roaches were actually your food. Change of topics, but aren't insects high in protein? You're not thinking about eating roaches for dinner, are you? You're so damn nasty. What is wrong with you? Just drink a damn protein shake. Sakusa's hand slid into his backpack and grabbed onto a bottle of alcohol spray, and less than half a second later he had started to spray it all over his boyfriend. Atsumu screeched at the sudden attack. What are you doing? You stop, you'll make me all wet. Sakusa didn't stop. I don't know, but the thought of you eating roaches for dinner made me feel uncomfortable. I don't eat roaches, and you were talking about my past life. Don't mix up the past and the present here. Disgusting. Sakusa muttered and stuffed the bottle back into his backpack once he was satisfied with the amount of alcohol spray he had used. Atsumu had grown silent as he began to fiddle with his shoelaces, and now the only sound heard was the noise of the clock hand that continuously moved forward. Sakusa hated that sound. Silence paired with the ticking of his watch was something he couldn't stand. It was a strangely familiar noise that made him feel uneasy, and at certain times it even made him feel nauseous. Sakusa wasn't a big talker, but he'd usually find himself in a situation where he tried to break the silence by starting a conversation. The only reason why the clock didn't land straight into the garbage bin, despite Sakusa absolutely hating it, was because Asumu's eyes sparkled with happiness when he had handed it to Sakusa last Christmas. It was kinda pricey, but I bet it'll look great on you, he had said, and even though he hated the present, Sakusa couldn't bring himself to throw it away, especially after he took his seemingly unreasonable disdain for clocks into consideration. For him to be worried about germs was reasonable. Oh well, at least it was understandable when taken into thought that germs were invisible, nasty little killers. But Sakusa had to admit that he was a little embarrassed by the fact that his body was thrown into a tumult of restlessness for no apparent reason, just by hearing the sound of a ticking clock. He would never admit it though, and instead of voicing his concern out, he tried his best to ignore his feelings by locking the watch into a drawer in his room as soon as he came back home from practice. It had become a daily routine for him now. Why did he even look this whole reincarnation thingy up in the first place? Sakusa tried to break the uncomfortable silence. His voice overshadowed the mechanic noise of the ticking clock. Aha, see, you're curious after all. Sakusa could have sworn that his boyfriend's eyes lit up that moment. What was he getting so excited about anyways? I'm not. I just want to know why my boyfriend spends his precious free time on reading junk about past lives reincarnation all of a sudden, instead of cleaning the toilet. Did you forget our agreement? What if I wanted to find my soulmate? Soulmate? Sakusa raised his eyebrows. Yes, soulmate. You know, a soulmate is a person that... I'm not stupid, I know what a soulmate is. Atsumu, who had finally finished changing into a clean pair of clothes, turned his gaze towards a black-haired male. Just imagine that you've had a soulmate in another life, and you're meant to find them again in your next life, but you won't ever be able to recognize them because you don't have any memories of your past life. They could be crossing the street right in front of you, and yet you may never know because you don't remember their name or face. Anyways, let's go home. Atsumu had zipped up his bag and flung it over his shoulder. If there's such a thing as soulmates, and aren't you destined to cross paths with them anyway? Let's pretend past lives and reincarnations are a thing. Their faces won't look the same in their current lives, and their names probably changed as well. Your mask. Wearing a mask in public was one of the conditions under which Sakusa had agreed to move in with Atsumu, Osamu, and Suna. After all, the rent in Tokyo was expensive, but with 4 people sharing the expenses, it was possible to rent a spacious place that was located relatively close to the subway station, and not somewhere in the suburbs. To Sakusa, who was given the choice between sharing an apartment with 3 people, of which one of them was his boyfriend, or moving to the suburbs to live in a small apartment surrounded by cockroaches and who knows what other insects, had grumpily decided that the first choice was a better option for him. I mean, yeah, but what if you cross paths, but you don't realize that they're your soulmate and you just end up letting them go? Then maybe they were not your soulmate? It's just a what-if situation. Atsumu zipped up his jacket as he stepped outside. The cold winter made him shiver. Winter was hotpot time. Maybe he should stop by the supermarket to buy some ingredients for it. Does it really matter whether or not you find your past life soulmate? It sort of makes me feel like you're not happy with me as your partner and would much rather want to find a better person. Someone who's perfect for you, instead of someone like me. Atsumu had turned his gaze towards his boyfriend. His golden eyes widened in disbelief. It wasn't an everyday matter for Sakusa to voice out the way he felt, as he usually kept his feelings to himself. Sure enough, Sakusa wouldn't shut up about how disgusted he was by certain things, but for him to actually reveal even the slightest bit of his insecurities or worries was something that didn't happen often. Atsumu's lips curled into a gentle smile. I wasn't implying that you aren't perfect for me. I think a soulmate doesn't necessarily have to be one's lover. I don't quite get that. Atsumu's smile grew wider at the thought of just how much his boyfriend had grown over the past years in terms of opening up towards him. Sakusa used to be someone Atsumu didn't like talking to. The way he talked was too blunt, and he seemingly only talked about his phobia of germs and how nasty everyone and everything around him was. I don't think that it's necessary to fall in love with one's soulmate. Maybe Osamu is my soulmate, and there's no way that I'd ever have any romantic feelings towards my own brother. Nah, I don't think he's your soulmate, Sakusa said with his eyebrows scrunched together at the thought of all the times one of the twins had almost choked the other. It was just an example. Maybe you're my soulmate, Omikun. And even if we die, you won't be able to get rid of me and my endless love for you. I'll find you again and again and again every time you get reborn. Oh crap, no, I just want to live in peace. I'm the reason you're living in peace and happiness right now, Atsumu pouted. You and your brother are the reasons why there's a shitload of roaches in the house. You two are dirty as fuck. If I get a heart attack and die at the age of 30, it's your fault. Omikun, sometimes you're a little too cold. Try as hard as you want to, but you won't be able to guilt trip me into this when I'm clearly speaking the truth. And the black-haired male muttered as he tightened the blue scarf around his neck. It smelled like... Did you steal my scarf again? Atsumu tensed up. His brown eyes suddenly grew extremely interested in watching the clouds in the winter sky, knowing that Sakusa would be able to look right through his life if he were to lock eyes with him. No way, I'd never. Liar. You literally flinched a second ago. Stop touching my stuff. Seriously, it's disgusting. Sakusa huffed. You know, it kinda hurt when you say things like this. Things like what? That I'm disgusting. You know I'm your boyfriend and all. I didn't say that you're disgusting, I said it's disgusting. And by it, I mean the germs that are spreading in the scarf. Because you didn't wash it after wearing it. Seriously, can you just fucking wash the shit you steal before you stuff it back into my closet? Cause putting dirty clothes right on the top of a bunch of freshly washed ones is nasty as fuck. Because if you, I gotta wash the entire wardrobe again. I'm sorry, Omi, I'll make sure to wash it next time. How about, you know, wearing your own clothes instead of stealing mine? But I like the way it smells. Wearing your scarf makes me feel like you're beside me, even though you aren't. How can you say something this embarrassing with a straight face? Atsumu's gentle smile turned into a shit-eating grin as he watched his boyfriend snort in embarrassment. The tips of Sakusa's ears had turned into a pale reddish shade, and his dark eyes were staring at the tips of his shoes. You're so cute when you're shy. I'm not cute. Oh, but you admit that you're shy. Just shut up, you idiot. Sakusa muttered as he pulled a pair of disposable gloves out of his pocket. The thought of him accidentally getting in touch with anything inside the subway made him shudder. While he couldn't completely avoid that the other passengers may brushed against his clothes, Sakusa really couldn't stand the thought of his skin coming into contact with the nasty germs strangers had left on the subway's handles and seats. It had taken him long enough to get someone comfortable around the house with the twins and Suna around 24/7, but he had learned to deal with it, knowing that it was his cheapest and best option to move in with them. For Sakusa to not completely lose his shit though, it meant that everyone in the household had to wear a face mask in public. Although Suna and Osamu didn't quite stick to that rule, they pretended to, but usually took their mask off as soon as they were out of Sakusa's field of vision. You still haven't told me why you're interested in your past life all of a sudden. The subway gate opened up as Sakusa swiped his IC card over the sensor. I told you I'm kinda interested in finding my soulmate. You probably didn't even have one. Everyone has a soulmate. Okay, let me rephrase it. What made you interested in soulmates and past life reincarnation? When all you usually think of is volleyball and sex. Sakusa's voice caused his boyfriend to flush under his mask. That's not true. Yeah, no, it's true. It's not. Right, it's volleyball, sex, and food you think about all the time. You make me sound like an incredibly weird person now. Atsumu pouted as he stepped into the train. It was actually Osamu who talked about past life reincarnation. Sakusa rolled his eyes. Of course it was the other twin that had planted more idiotic ideas into Atsumu's head. How come? Sakusa's hand was buried deep inside his pocket as he tried to make as little contact with the other passengers as possible. Oh, apparently one of his friends took part in a guided hypnosis session and learned about his past life. Osamu became curious in it because of his friend. Atsumu tried to shield his boyfriend from a couple of school kids that had decided to throw popcorn at each other. Osamu actually went to a couple of those hypnosis sessions. It seemed like we used to be brothers in our past life as well. That's such a money ripoff. I can't believe you fell for it. Of course they said you were brothers in your other life as well. They just want to win your trust and shit like that, so you'll keep coming back. They earn their money from fools like you. I don't think so. They actually record the whole session so you can watch it afterwards. Because sometimes you forget what you talked about when you were in trance. Osamu had never mentioned anything about me before the session started, so it's not like the practitioner talked him into this whole thing. Sakusa scrunched his eyebrows. And well, I'm sure there must be a reasonable explanation for it. Maybe it's his wishful thinking, vivid imagination, I don't know. He probably subconsciously made up something to make him feel, I don't know, happy? Relieved? I don't think so. Oh, and it seemed like he and Suna were soulmates in their past life. Sakusa wanted to facepalm himself. That's where Atsumu had gotten the weird idea about finding his soulmate from. That's just bullshit, seriously. Maybe, but you know what's weird? I don't know and I don't want to know. Secretly, he actually wanted to know. Osamu didn't want to talk about the two of us. Oh, he talks about how he and Suna got married and had a great life, but he completely shuts off whenever I ask him about you and me. Why do you think that I was part of your brother's past life? Because he's acting super weird. Maybe something dramatic happened back then. I really think that it has something to do with your phobia. If we go back in time, we can maybe figure out the cause and heal it. Next station, Shiro Kaneda. Interchange station to the Toei Mita line. Doors will open on the left side. Oh, what the fuck? I'm not sick, nor am I interested in throwing out my hard-earned money out of the window like that.